Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, May 19th, 2017, the WNW 284. Let's start off the wrap up with something a bit of a joke. It's not even a joke. It's kind of, it would be funnier if it wasn't true. This is from a cartoonist named Glenn McCoy. And if you look right down here, it says this is the media. So you can see his focus in. He's saying that's the media. And the media is in some type of padded cell. And you can see what the caption says, you know, he's crazy. The media is hyperventilating over trying to destroy Donald Trump, even worse than they hyperventilated over trying to stop him from being president of the United States. It didn't work before, and it won't work now. You know, Bush 43, made this quote, one of the mainstream network anchors saying, you guys don't have the power you used to. That's right, they don't. It didn't work to stop him, and it won't work to eject him out of office. And listen, what the media is doing, I just want to preface this. What they're doing, and I've brought this up before, is really just good old-fashioned propaganda because, information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular cause or point of view. Well, the point of view is we hate Trump, and the cause is we want him impeached. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. And let's start with my little Greensboro News and Record liberal fish rag. Trump's tumultuous day. Yes, tumultuous because the mainstream press made it that way by lying and doing propaganda journalism, which isn't journalism, it's just propaganda. So left-wing propaganda. Here we go. Comey documented Trump's request to drop Flynn inquiry. Let me just get that a little focused a little better. There you go. Comey documented Trump's request to drop the Flynn inquiry. Well, number one, we don't even know if that's true because nobody has seen that memo, and I'll prove it to you in just a minute. So this is a headline that states an allegation as a statement of fact. Comey documented Trump's request to drop Flynn inquiry. That's not even true. That's not even remotely true. I think the words that Donald Trump used were, I would hope you would just let that go. Really, I hope I get a BB gun for Christmas. I hope that I can get a winning lottery ticket. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. And here is the addendum to that story in the newspaper. This is an AP story. Now, let me get in here with you so we can get it nice and focused. Because I want to read this to you. I listened to this. So here it is. Comey, who was known to keep a paper trail of sensitive meetings that chronicled Trump's request soon after the February meeting with the president in the Oval Office. Keep that in mind. February meeting with the president in the Oval Office. This is according to an associate that has seen the memo. Well, excuse me. The Associated Press, also the New York Times, did a story with an associate making his rounds because they want to trash him. They want this to look like independent journalism. An associate that's seen the memo. I mean, they didn't see the memo. They just read, and it's somebody who's an anonymous source, the Associated Press. The associate was not authorized to discuss the memo. That means it's a felony by name and spoke in the condition of anonymity. Now, as a reporter, let me show you how this would go if I was pitching a story, and it's a story that dunks the president of the United States at ABC or CNN. Now, can you imagine? I cannot imagine this. I cannot imagine walking to my boss's office and say, hey, I got this story. Okay, what is it? Oh, it's about the president, and it could cause him to be impeached and removed from office. Wow, I'm all ears. Tell me about it, my boss would say. Okay, so I've got this source. Okay, who is it? It's anonymous. Can't tell you. Can't name him. Okay. And they've got this memo. Okay, do you got a copy of the memo, that would say the boss to me? No, I don't have a copy of the memo. No, he's going to read it to me on the telephone. He read it to the New York Times, too. So let me get this straight. The reporter pitched a story that had an anonymous source and only one, that had a memo that they didn't see, that was read to them on the phone, that was likely a felony disclosure of information if it were real. And the Associated Press and the New York Times editors let him run with that story. Outrageous. Too stupid to be stupid. They better hope that memo surfaces, because if it doesn't, wow, are they going to lose even more credibility than they already have. because you know what? That doesn't jive with the public. Remember I said that the AP and the New York Times is citing a February meeting that Comey had, that he documented this in the Oval Office in February 2017. So here is the headline that's on Zero Hedge, and other people have this, and I listened to this little piece of tape. It's from C-SPAN. You can hear it for yourself, folks. Here is the Zero Hedge headline. Comey admits under oath that obstructions to investigations never happened. Now, you would think that if you're asked by the sitting senator from Hawaii, a sitting senator from Hawaii, and this is a Senate, this is James Comey in a Senate Judiciary Committee on May 3rd. Are you seeing that, folks, right here? Huh? James Comey, Senate Judiciary Committee on May 3rd. And one of the senators from Hawaii asked James Comey, did anybody, get in the way of any of your investigations at all? Now, if you're talking about the President of the United States asking the FBI director to stop an investigation, and according to the quote-unquote memo that nobody has seen, he said, I would hope you would just let that go. Flynn's a nice guy, right? You think that's obstruction of justice? Wow. I don't. And I don't even know if it happened. And again, the reporters don't know what happened either because they've never seen this memo. It's being read to them on the telephone. And so here's what Comey says when asked by a sitting senator in this meeting from Hawaii. When asked if anybody ever asked you to stop an investigation. Nope, not in my experience, because it would be a big deal to tell the FBI to stop doing something like that without an appropriate purpose. And then he goes on to explain. Now listen to this, folks. I mean, oftentimes where they give us opinions, that we don't have a case, or, you might want to stop investing resources in it. But I'm talking about a situation where, we were told to stop something for a political reason. Well, that would be a very big deal. And Comey finishes up by saying, it's not happened in my experience. Did not happen. This is what the then FBI Director James Comey, when he still had a job, said on May 3rd in a Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, either James Comey is an idiot with Alzheimer's and can't remember anything, okay, which I don't think that's true, or he committed perjury. And I don't think that's true either. I think what he gave was the real deal. And what happens if James Comey gets called into the Senate and they say, hey, do you have that memo? He goes, hey, no, listen, I don't have that memo. And if I wrote that down, I didn't think it was an obstruction of justice because I would have said something about it. I mean, and then, the CNN, Dana Bash, is talking about how, the deep state is striking back. Oh, you mean it's okay for unelected officials to attack and to basically commit revenge on someone trying to clean up the criminality of the U.S. government on both sides of the aisle? It's okay, according to Dana Bash and CNN. Deep state is giving payback. Like that. Oh, you shouldn't have messed with them. I mean, of course, they're the real government of America, not the elected people that we think are running things. That's unbelievable, folks. And then we have one negative headline after another, and there's been many instances where Democrats have given up of sensitive information, but in this case, this is another anonymous source. One anonymous source, and they're running with front page stories and then whipping up a frenzy. And let's impeach Donald Trump, which is totally bogus. They are destroying their credibility, and they're not going to destroy Donald Trump. Here we have it again, the USA Today fish wrap, the propaganda rag. It's not a news organization. Dems demand Trump explain his meeting with Lavrov, the counterpart to the Secretary of State. I think they call him a foreign minister. And then this guy right here, Kislyak, who is the ambassador to America. Now he is an openly known spy, supposedly for the Russians, but. I mean, here we have the H.R. McMaster, who is the head of his national security, and Tillerson, the Secretary of State, in there. You think he's passing secrets? I mean, this is how bad the Russia investigation is going. They got to trump up this. And again, this story was done with an anonymous source. And by the way, H.R. McMaster, when asked about it, said, didn't happen. didn't give up any information. The Russians are now saying, we'll be happy to provide America with a transcript of this meeting because it was nonsense. That didn't happen. That's unbelievable. Nevertheless, we have, now the former FBI director, Robert Mueller, who supposedly is a good guy, one of the longest serving FBI directors in history, I think, since for a long time. He's going to look into this Russian inquiry, which is Russian collusion, which I've said many times. The top even people like Clapper said no votes were changed at the machines, and then we find out the CIA, with this Vault 7 dump that we have a traitor in our ranks, and now we find out about the so-called Russian hacking of the servers. Remember that, the DNC servers, which they wouldn't allow the FBI to look at because it's such a huge national security issue. Why didn't the FBI just get a warrant, just go in under the Patriot Act and just say, this is a national security issue, we're taking them? So where did that information come from? Well, according to Fox News, Seth Rich, this is this kid that worked at the DNC that was supposedly shot in the back in a quote-unquote robbery, which they didn't steal anything. He was murdered. A DNC staffer leaked thousands of internal emails to WikiLeaks, and according to Fox News, the FBI is in possession of their correspondence. Oh, just like Julian Assange said, he didn't get the information from the Russians. I wonder how that plays in with Mueller's investigation into the Russian hacking story. I mean, you talk about a collusion story. And by the way, General Flynn, that supposedly was in contact with the Russians, has not been charged with a crime. They don't even know if they're going to charge him with the crime. I mean, here you have General Michael Flynn, who had one of the highest security clearances out there. They're going to sell us a case where he's flipped over to help the Russians out? I don't think so. And if that's the case, that's not a Donald Trump story. That's a Michael Flynn story. And by the way, that story came to light. Why? Because of the leaked information. And every time you have one of these leaks, every single time, according to Judge Andrew Napolitano, he says that they're committing a felony. He thinks that the leaks are likely the same people that surveilled Donald Trump. He comes right out and says that they surveilled him. He also broke the story where, MI6, British intelligence was helping the Obama administration surveil the Trump team. He was taken off the air for a while, but CNN confirmed that it happened. And he's saying these are the same people that were surveilling Donald Trump, and they're leaking, classified information. And every time they're leaking this, they're committing a felony, and they're doing it to embarrass and to intimidate and to infuriate and frustrate the Trump administration. They don't want him to succeed at all. He also says that the FBI, I don't know if Mueller will find this out, they were willing to, this is according to Andrew Napolitano, Judge Napolitano, they were going to pay for this $50,000 for this bogus dossier that was basically compiled by this former British spy. And it was so ludicrous and tawdry that they backed out of the deal. They're going to pay $50,000 for it. But this, nonetheless, was the information reportedly that James Comey used to get a FISA warrant on the Trump team. Where Donald Trump was urinating on beds, and Michael Cohen, his top attorney, was colluding with the Russians in Eastern Europe. As I've said before, wrong Michael Cohen. Huge factual errors and outrageously bogus, unsubstantiated, crazy things that Donald Trump wasn't doing. According to many people, you can add Judge Napolitano's name to the chorus of people who say, hey, listen, they're just trying to undermine a president. Here we have a special prosecutor already named for a president that's been in office for 4 months. They wouldn't dream of doing that to Barack Obama. I mean, Barack Obama committed so many dang breaches of law. What about Fast and Furious, where they gave guns to Mexican drug cartels and one of our border agents died? That's just one of many illegal things that Barack Obama and his administration did. Outrageous. Really, just outrageous. And this is more of this another phony headline about, again, Trump gives intel to Russians. No, he didn't. No, an anonymous source leaked felonious information to the press that wants to try to destroy Donald Trump. We move on to the economy. And of course, anything that happens to the economy now, the press is going to what? Try to blame Donald Trump. Donald Trump troubles drive Dow down 372 points. Trump troubles. Yes, caused by the Democrats, the crony criminal Republicans, and the propaganda news organizations that are destroying whatever is little left of their credibility that they do have left, which isn't much. Of course, now nothing like debt would be causing people to be a little nervous. We owe more than we did in 2008. Yes, the debt is worse for individuals and globally. We owed about $170 trillion globally, and they bit down on the debt apple globally, and now there's something like $230 trillion out there. Wow, what could go wrong with $230 trillion of unpayable debt out there? What could go wrong? Hey, but the mainstream press was all over this story this week. Walmart earnings to top street estimates as retailers' digital sales jumped 63%. This is CNBC. Whoa, problem solved. Walmart's retail sales jumped 63%. You know what that is, folks? That is Walmart trying to stay afloat, and they were able to pick off other stores, businesses, because there are a couple thousand more stores, a little more than 8,000 stores, projected to close in 2017 than were projected to close in 2008 during the last meltdown. They projected about, 6,100 stores to close. That's how many did close. Now they're projecting more than 8,000 stores that will close down. And they're celebrating over Walmart. As Walmart goes, so goes the country. They're up because of their retail, their internet sales. Yeah, okay. And then meanwhile, in the real economy, where they make things and don't import them from China, automaker to cut jobs. This is Ford Motor Company. Their stock's been languishing at about $10 a share. They make good vehicles, good company. But they're laying off, 1,500 people, 3,000 people, white-collar people. And so, listen, I told you about how the inventory build at most of the automakers is up. The General Motors has, 84 days of inventory? I'm sure Ford has a lot of inventory, well, otherwise they wouldn't be laying people off. There's most of the automakers are lost money, at least in the high single digits. Very few made money. I think Hyundai maybe made some money. My memory serves me correct. And here's the information you don't see on the mainstream media. And I just picked out a couple of data points from John Williams, the economist at shadowstats.com. And this is the annual retail sales growth has resettled at recession signal level. This, I believe, John Williams, not the mainstream press. First quarter real average weekly earnings held in an annual decline along with back-to-back quarterly contractions. And here's my favorite. I tell you, there's no inflation. Annual CPIU, this is the headline number, is what John Williams likes to say. The government's headline inflation number, 2.2%. Right, yeah. Shadowstats number was around 10% if you did the inflation calculations the way the BLS did it in 1980. It'd be about 10% annual inflation right now. Does that sound like a good economy to you? Let's see. You're making less money, and inflation's at 10%. Oh, that's not straining people out, is it? And meanwhile, not a single big banker goes to jail, and I want to promote my guest before I forget it. Warren Pollack. A lot of people have been asking for him to come on. What a preparation for this interview. It's about an hour long. 60 pages of notes, and he talks about how Donald Trump's a patriot for exposing the criminality, huge criminality going on in our government, and we're talking about Democrats and Republicans. Catherine Austin Fitts, has brought this up many times. They've stolen trillions of dollars. She's documented on Solari.com. 11 point something trillion dollars stolen. The military is lost or stolen. In fact, something like 6 trillion of that. It's unbelievable. You wonder why we don't have any money for anything. But that's, as Warren Pollack says, he says, nobody cares about the theft and the stealing and the huge criminal operation. 11 trillion stolen. The bankers are running wild. Nobody goes to jail. Money launder, manipulate the markets, rig the LIBOR, rig the currency markets. Yeah, that's a real market, right? And here we have Deutsche Bank. Again, Deutsche Bank sued for running an international criminal organization, and they have sued an Italian court. That's the allegation. Running an international criminal organization. This is a Bloomberg headline from this past week. I mean, that's what the big banks have turned into. And Steve Mnuchin's like, it would be a mistake to whittle down the size of the big banks. I don't think so. It'd be a mistake to keep them as they are, as these huge, unwielding criminal organizations. And then when they get into trouble, it's, oh, you have to bail us out. We're too big to fail. And meanwhile, they nab big, they do their deal, and they get to keep their fraudulent earnings, and meanwhile, the taxpayers get stuck with it again. Meanwhile, if you take a look at the Middle East, and I've been harping on this, I don't know where they're getting these rebels. I mean, the Kurds are rebels, and now we're getting set up with basically a fight between Turkey and the United States, because we're backing the Kurds against ISIS. Actually, Donald Trump is apparently trying to knock out ISIS, I think. But then you have headlines like this, where U.S. coalition jets strike Assad convoy in southern Syria. Wait a minute, I thought we were trying to knock out ISIS. Why are they striking Assad's convoy in southern Syria? That's not ISIS, is it? That's the Syrian army in Russia. Wow, what could go wrong if we kill, a few dozen Russians that may be in a convoy like that in the future? So that is just one of these things that just, simmering in the Middle East. And I want to get into this little piece of propaganda. Trump's credibility gap is the lowest since Nixon. Now, this is USA Today. This is how they started their week off, USA Today. You notice anything like op-ed here on this piece, or news analysis, that little lie they like to tell? This is this propagandist, Susan Page. And I'll just read this to you. President Trump drew the biggest inaugural crowd in history, except he didn't. Not according to the CNN 360 camera that I showed you, where the everybody was filled all the way back to the Washington Monument, and they had pictures where all these big gaps in the crowd. Wrong. And if you take a look at the streaming video, in 2009, they say Barack Obama had the biggest crowd. Well, if you add in all the streaming video in 2017, yeah, the Trump administration says no. People viewed, eyeballs viewed, if you count streaming video, and a huge crowd on the mall that you could visibly see. Thank you, CNN. I would debate that. Also, President Obama wiretapped Trump Tower during the campaign. Yes, he did. How do you think they got a transcript of General Michael Flynn? Because somebody was listening with a cup on the wall or something? And then now we know that Comey did get a FISA warrant, and he used that bogus report to do it. Trump was surveilled. Why? Let's not mince words here. Nobody cuts into a wire and listens to your phone call down at the phone company anymore. And then finally, evidence that Trump fired FBI Director James Comey because a Deputy Attorney General concluded Comey had misled the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Except now, the President says it was his decision. Well, maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't. Who cares? But that's a big issue with the press. I was a reporter. I worked at 5 TV stations. I worked at 2 networks. I did investigative reporting for probably the last 20 years of my career. I know how it works. I know how to source a story. I know what you have to do so you don't get sued or embarrassed. And what's going on today is pure propaganda. I could never do. I would never think of doing stories with one anonymous source and trash the President of the United States of America. I had a story one time that surely would have sunk a Democrat second-term running governor in the state of North Carolina. And his name is Jim Hunt. And I had him. I mean, they wasted $460 million on a computer system that wasn't there. And I went around and found it wasn't there. And I was getting ready to run the story. And it was about 8 days before the election. And my boss says, "You want to run this story?" I said, boss, it's going to make it look like we're choosing sides. And I'm not a Democrat. And I'm not a Republican either. And, I don't want to be accused of trying to, drop a bomb on a sitting governor. And if he loses, I'll feel, people say, "Oh, you did this on purpose." So we ran it, 2 days after the election. It's a great story. Made headlines. That's the kind of level of care that I use, Democrat or Republican. I mean, when I was in as an investigative correspondent at ABC or CNN, we always had to make the best case for somebody, for a subject. We didn't leave out facts that would help them. We would not just only include facts that would hurt them. We had to make our best case. That is not what they're doing. That is, especially when you consider a sitting president of the United States. You try to do your best. You try to be fair. You try to make your best case. There's no way that anybody. There's no. Let me tell you this. There is no way on God's green earth could a reporter at the Washington Post, the USA Today, the New York Times go into their boss's office during the Obama administration and say, "Hey, I've got one source. He's anonymous. I can't name him. I've got a document that I've not seen and I don't have possession of, and I want to trash Barack Obama." Do you think that they would have done that? Yeah, right. They wouldn't have. Don't believe the hype and the propaganda and the crazy, frothing at the mouth of these mainstream media reporters and their bosses. As George Bush 43 said, they don't have the power they used to. And they don't. That's the way I see it. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your donations and your comments. That's great. Just remember, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ, are fully 100% in charge of all things in heaven and earth. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.